12 minutes after 6 o'clock, this is the Early Edition on CBC Radio 1, 690 AM, 88.1 FM in Vancouver. I'm Stephen Quinn, in for Rick Clough this morning. Well, first it was the CBC, and now Parliament Hill is being rocked by accusations of harassment. Liberal leader Justin Trudeau has suspended 2 MPs for personal misconduct after allegations from 2 female NDP MPs.
We have a duty to protect and encourage individuals in these situations to come forward. The action must be fair but decisive. It must be sensitive to all affected parties, but recognizing how difficult it is to do so, it must give the benefit of the doubt to those who come forward.
But NDP leader Tom Mulcair says Trudeau's decision to go public about the allegations has re-victimized the women.
The number one preoccupation was to be very respectful of their wish that it not go public, and that was their desire, and we've respected that wish. Anyone who went against that, of course, would be running the risk of making them become victims a second time. That's certainly not something we'd ever be part of.
Now, the case raises questions about the handling of such allegations and about the culture in Parliament. And we're joined now by 2 female MPs with a long history on the Hill. Hedy Fry is the Liberal MP for Vancouver Centre. Libby Davies is the NDP MP for Vancouver East. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning, Stephen.
Hedy Fry, to you first, if I may. What do you make of the accusation that your leader has re-victimized these women by going public with these allegations?
I think the leader did what he had to do. He had a responsibility to act. He was told that the 2 of his own caucus members, allegations, he had to act within his realm as leader and go ahead and suspend. He felt there had to be zero tolerance in our caucus, so he suspended the members. The moment he suspended the members, of course, the question then would arise, why did you suspend these people? So he came out, he made a press release, he spoke at the press conference. He did not mention who the complainants were. He did not mention what party they came from. All he said was they were from one of the other parties. And so no one knew, we didn't know, I didn't know that these were from the NDP until Mr. Mulcair spoke out about it. And so I think he kept confidence. He kept the names of the accusers silent and confidential, but he had a duty as leader to act within his own caucus of 2 members who were accused of personal misconduct. He had a duty. He had no choice. And it was only then that he discovered, Stephen, when the whip, he told it to the whip, and the whip told it to the whip of, as far as we know, of the other party. Everyone discovered there was absolutely no process for MPs on the Hill to be able to complain in this nature. Every workplace today in the 2014 has such a process. It is interesting that Parliament Hill had no such process. So he went to the Speaker and he said, you are really the person who is in charge of the MPs here, and I think you should set up a process that is sensitive to both the people who have the confidentiality of both parties, and to find a way to give them an ability to discuss this issue in private and in confidence and in a safe place.
Ms. Davies, did Justin Trudeau not have a duty to act on what he had learned? Otherwise, he'd be accused of being complicit or not taking the complaint seriously.
I do think that, when a leader receives information like that, of course they have a responsibility and a duty to act. And I'm sure that Mr. Trudeau considered that very seriously and tried to think about, what should be done. And I think that Hedy is correct. And I've said for a long time, because this has been raised before, Stephen, by the way, that probably Parliament Hill is one of the few places where there is no workplace harassment or sexual harassment policy, which is really quite incredible. I used to work with complaints around sexual harassment in the workplace before I was an MP, a long time before. And one of the key components of the process is that it is confidential, and that it's always in control of the complainants to decide how they want to proceed, or if they want to proceed. And I think that's the problem here, that in the absence of a process, when Mr. Trudeau took his decision, immediately it then puts enormous amount of pressure, and it does become public, because now everybody's saying, well, who are these people? What's going to happen? What's the nature of the complaint? And I think for anybody who's dealt with this kind of issue before, they will know that confidentiality is a very key element. Now, that doesn't preclude complainants at some point from deciding they do want to say something publicly. But initially, it's always confidential, and I think that's the problem. And what we should focus on here, Stephen, is really not over-politicizing this issue. I think the parties have to work together. We have to ensure that there is a proper process in place so that the Speaker himself knows what he should follow as well, because that also makes it now very difficult. I should tell you, I raised this at the Board of Internal Economy when I was House Leader quite a few years ago. And basically, I was told to get lost, that, go back to your own party and deal with this. So there has been a culture on the Hill of this idea that you can sort of say what you want. It's almost like a perverse side of parliamentary privilege, that you're protected. You can say what you want.
Sorry, when you say you raised this, Ms. Davies, are you talking about the specific allegations?
No. Okay. I'm talking about a long time ago, because there have been other situations where members of Parliament have complained about conduct, and basically your only recourse is to rise on a point of privilege in the House, which is then, of course, very public, and you feel very exposed and very vulnerable. So, we've got a big problem, and I think we do have an opportunity to deal with this now in a responsible way by the parties working together, and I do think we shouldn't over-politicize it. We should focus on what needs to be done, and to make sure that, for God's sake, in this day and age, Parliament Hill has sexual harassment policies that are in place, and that, everybody else does. Why on earth wouldn't we have the same kind of protection in terms of people who are just because they're elected, that doesn't mean they're any different. Inappropriate behavior is inappropriate behavior, and there has to be recourse to deal with it. Dr.
Fry.
I agree with Libby. I think that that in the past on Parliament Hill, any complaint of any kind of personal misconduct, everyone circled the wagons and sort of, covered for their own. And I think that this is not what Justin felt is appropriate. He felt he had to do something about his own people. And as I said, the fact, though, that the confidentiality remained, that he did not in any way, shape or form say what political party the women were from, meant that he did keep that confidentiality, but he was appalled that there was no process. And all he had to do was to do what he must as a leader, which was to do something about his own people, but he also felt that even his own people didn't have an ability to speak to this in a safe and confidential manner. And I do think that this covering of each other and circling the wagons has to end. And I believe that my leader did the right thing. And I think, as Libby said, politicizing it is not the issue. This is a problem. Let us get workplace processes in place. We should be setting the example as Parliament to have this kind of culture of an ability for people to feel safe, to go and speak in confidence, and have a process move forward where the people who are accused have the ability to also be safe and speak in confidence without this becoming a big issue.
So will either of your parties, then, will you take steps to put harassment policies into place moving forward?
In the NDP, Stephen, we already have sexual harassment policies. So anyone who works for the NDP, including MPs, including staff, including volunteers, including interns, we actually have policies in place ourselves internally. And they have been used from time to time. In any workplace, you have those situations. The issue here, though, is when it involves MPs, from different parties. And I think the problem we've got now is that because of the decision that was made, basically there's two members of the Liberal caucus who have been suspended. They don't know what the allegations are, so it kind of leaves them out there. So I really do think that there has to be now a process in place so we know how to proceed on a fair basis, and that that people's rights are protected, both the complainants but also the respondents, because they also have a right to know what it is they need to respond to. But that's not for us to know. That is a process that is confidential that needs to unfold, and then it will take whatever particular course depending on what the complainants decide to do, if they decide to proceed even.
We are going to have to leave it there this morning. Thank you very much, both of you, for your time. We appreciate it. Take care now. Bye-bye. Libby Davies, the NDP MP for Vancouver East. Hedy Fry, the Liberal MP for Vancouver Centre.